Hi, I'm Hannah. This is Piles of Books, and today I'm going to be doing the Frances Hodgson Burnett Tag. Okay, that's kind of a mouthful to say. I don't know if I've ever said her name out loud like that, so it took a couple times to get it right. I was tagged by Dia from Novel Idea. I will leave her channel linked below. And she was originally tagged by Kelly from Kelly Reads a Lot, and that is who also created this tag. So it's a very fun tag. Thank you so much for tagging me, Dia, and I am excited to share my answers with you. Okay, so the first prompt is A Little Princess, and in that book, the main character, Sarah, shows the power of imagination. So what book or books ignite your imagination was the question. And let's see, I got my whole stack here, so okay. So I have got 3 that I wanted to share for this prompt. 2 of them were books that I read as a kid and that really fed my imagination as a kid. And then the other one is one that I read as an adult here just a couple months ago that really fed my imagination. So the first one is Pippi Longstocking. This is a sort of children's classic. I loved the movie. I watched the movie long before I read the book, but then I also loved the book as well. I don't think I ever read the sequels. I think I only ever read the first one. So this is just a cute story about the little orphan girl Pippi and the scrapes that she gets herself and the neighbor children into. There's a lot of, she uses her imagination like all day, every day. So as a kid, I really loved reading this story over and over and laughing out loud. And now my 8-year-old has read it a couple of times and he loves it too. It's just such a fun book. The next one is The Boxcar Children. This is the first one. I did read a number of them as a kid, but specifically the first one definitely boosted my imagination. So this is the story of 4 orphan children who find their way to a boxcar to live in, and they kind of learn how to live off the land and do odd jobs for people and make some money. And it really is a very unrealistic story, but it was a fun one to read as a child. I loved it so much. And my siblings and I would play the Boxcar Children from time to time. We would pretend that we were the Boxcar Children. We lived right by, just right across the street from some railroad tracks. And so trains were a part of our everyday life, and we would, watch for like hobos and empty boxcars. And of course we never saw any of that, but it was fun to imagine it, and it was fun to imagine us being the Boxcar Children. And then the last one is The Doll's House by Rumer Godden. So like I said, I just recently read this book for the first time, and it is told from the perspective of a doll family who live in the doll's house. And as a child, I would have absolutely loved something like this. I loved playing with dolls, baby dolls, Barbie dolls, Polly Pockets, all of that. I had a doll house that was kind of my pride and joy all my growing up years, and now my little girls get to play with it. So this is the story, like I said, of a doll family, kind of just a mix and match doll family, and they are taken care of by 2 little sisters. And the doll house is like handed down to them from like their great aunt or something like that, and so they kind of redo it, have the furniture redone. So part of the story is kind of them getting the money to do those things, but there is also an older doll whose home this was, and she kind of comes back into the picture and antagonizes the current doll family a little bit. With it being told from the doll's perspective, it was a lot of fun, and like I said, I would have loved this as a child, and my 6-year-old daughter loved it, and I have overheard her playing several times with her dolls and have given them the names of these dolls in here, so I'm sure that this one fed her imagination as well. So the next prompt is for Little Lord Fauntleroy, and in that story, the kindness of a child is demonstrated. So I chose a couple of books that demonstrate the kindness of a child, and this is what I came up with. So first and foremost, I have actually not read Little Lord Fauntleroy. I have it on my shelf, and I have gone to pick it up a few times, but I haven't ever actually read it. So I'm going to try to do that here as soon as possible, because after doing this tag, I am pretty interested in it, and I have loved her other books that I have read. So I need to do that. But I have 3 books for this as well. So the first one is The Sign of the Beaver by Elizabeth George Spear. So this is the story of a family in, I want to say, maybe like the early 1700s, kind of when people were just beginning to settle the New England states before they were states. And this family goes into the woods to claim their land and build their cabin. But it ends up only being the dad and the son, because the mom, I think, is expecting a baby, and there's also like a young child. I can't remember exactly, but the dad ends up having to leave the son there in the cabin, and he's going to come right back and bring the mom and all of that. And then it ends up, the days are going by, the months are going by, it's winter, he's having to take care of himself. So where the kindness of a child comes into this story is there are some local Native Americans, and there's a boy who is this boy's age. Matt, I believe is his name. Yes, Matt. They're kind of the same age, and the native boy is very hardened against Matt. But his grandfather wants him to learn how to read, and Matt is kind of his way to do that. So Matt has to overcome his fear of the Indians and his frustration with the Indian boy who doesn't really like him. So that part of the story, him overcoming that and learning to be friends with people who are different than him, is a big main part of this story. Some of it is because his life depends on it. You know, he has to be friendly with them to get through the winter, and he knows that. But it is hard for him to deal with the Indian boy, a teen, I think is how you say it. Matt and a teen. They have to learn how to work together and get over their own hard feelings against each other. This is such a good story. I've read it a couple of times out loud, and I've cried both times, and then even though I knew what was coming. And my son has read it, I don't know how many times, probably 10 or 12 times, and he loves it, and he recommends it to his friends. All right, another one is Strawberry Girl by Lois Lensky. So in some ways, this is very similar to The Sign of the Beaver. The little girl in here, what is her name? Birdie. Birdie Boyer is her name. And they live in Florida, a backwoods region in Florida. And they have some neighbors who are kind of lazy. They don't do anything for themselves. The parents don't take care of the kids, and they steal things from the people around them. And it's not a secret, like everybody knows that all this kind of stuff is going on, but it comes down to Birdie at some point to be kind to these people, and she does have to, again, overcome her frustration and her prejudice and learn how to kind of reconcile those feelings and deal with the neighbor family in this. Specifically, the boy that's about her age that just kind of bugs her and irritates her. And as I was reading this story, I definitely felt for her. Like, I was annoyed by this family and this little boy. But the story is a very sweet one of how it all turns out in the end. All right, and the last one that I have for this is A Night Divided by Jennifer A. Nielsen. So this is the story. This is based off of a true story of a family who gets separated overnight by the Berlin Wall. So the story opens up with Gerda. Yes, Gerda. She's 12 years old, and her parents know that bad things are coming, but the dad, he wants to leave Berlin. The mom doesn't want to, and then, pretty much right at the beginning of the story, her dad and one of her brothers go to the other side of Berlin just to start looking for homes and things, and the wall goes up in the middle of the night and they are separated. So she does eventually see her father on the other side of the wall looking in, and they wave to each other. She gets in trouble. She's not supposed to do that, but she goes home and she tells her other older brother, the oldest, and they decide that they are going to start building a tunnel to try to get through. So this was very fast paced. I actually listened to this on audio and I could not hardly stop listening. I wanted to know what happened next. So they are almost caught by an officer, but he basically makes a deal with them that if they let him and his wife and child get through with them, he won't tell on them. And she really struggles with that, and the brother really struggles with that. And, you know, they don't want to help him, but they also know that it probably is the right thing to do. So again, just overcoming, you know, frustrations and prejudice and all of that, and how they can work together to save some lives. This was a riveting story. It was really good. Since I listened to this last summer, I have been very interested in reading there's a book about the real story that this is based off of, but I haven't done that yet. So anyway, this was a really good one. I highly recommend it. So the last prompt is for The Secret Garden. That story has a very found family feel. So what are some other books that have that same kind of feeling? And again, I chose 3. So the first one is Sarah Plain and Tall. So this is a bit different because it's not really, in most ways, I guess it's not really found family on the children's part, but on Sarah's part. Although the children, she does bring the family back together. So this is the beginning of a series about Anna and Caleb and their father, and their mother has passed away. Their father is looking for a wife. So he puts an advertisement, you know, in the paper. She answers the ad. She comes out from Maine to, you know, the Midwest. I don't know if it says where they live, just on the prairie somewhere. So of course, you know, she comes into the family and she kind of changes some things in the home, and just it's very unsettled at first for quite a while, and she doesn't know if she's going to stay. Like, I think maybe she tells them she's only going to stay for so long and then kind of make a decision. So of course, by the end of the story, she has fallen in love with them, they have fallen in love with her, and she does stay, but there, you know, is some turbulence getting to that spot. So while this is a children's story, I also think that this is for adults too. It's really short. My copy here only has 64 pages. It's really tiny, but this is a very, very sweet story, and I definitely think that it represents found family very well. Another one that I have here is Understood Betsy. This is by Dorothy Canfield Fisher. So I read this story for the first time a few years ago. I read it out loud to my kids, and it is beautiful. So we have a young girl named Betsy. At the beginning of the book, I believe, yeah, they call her Elizabeth, and she's taken care of by her aunt maybe or something, and she's like very protected and watched over. She's scared of everything, but a situation comes up and she has to go live with some relatives that live on a farm, and she is, you know, very scared. She's never been away from home, and her original guardians are supposed to come back and get her, but again, kind of like with the sign of the beaver, like the time just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, and she grows used to the farm and her friends and the adults there and her life there. And so then she has to decide, is she going to stay with them or is she going to go back to her original home? Again, another one that I cried at the end. It is for children, but I think it's for adults as well. And again, I feel like it represents found family very well. Okay, and the last book I have here today is Little Men. This is by Louisa May Alcott. So in this book, Jo, the second sister from Little Women, she and her husband have a school for boys, a home for boys sort of a thing. So there are boys in here from every walk of life, and Jo and Franz, I believe it's her husband's name, they take care of these boys. They love on them. They teach them academically, but also, you know, real life skills. They teach them how to grow a garden, and one of the boys is in charge of the chickens, and he gets so much money from each dozen of eggs that the farm sells and all of that. So while like they're not adopting these boys or anything, by the end of the book, it does feel like one big happy family. And there's a lot of things that go on in here. There are some very funny parts. There are some sad parts, but all of it is definitely worth a read. This was so good. Little Women, I really enjoyed Little Women, but Little Men is I don't know. It's also a lot of fun. I can't really say which one is better, but I was not disappointed in Little Men at all. And this is one that I also read out loud to my kids, and they loved it just as much as I did. They asked for more of it every single day that we read it. Louisa did such a good job writing Joe and Frances' characters. You can tell that they love these boys. They treat them all very well and equally, even though they're from different walks of life. Some are poor, some are from well-to-do families. Everyone has an equal chance to be loved and to learn to love others in return in this story. It is such a sweet one. Okay, so that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here. And thanks again, Dia, for tagging me in this. It was really fun for me to think of the books that I would answer all of these prompts with. Thank you, Kelly, for putting this tag together. I will, like I said, I will leave both of their channels linked in the description box along with the prompts for this tag. If you would like to do it, I would love to see your answers, so make sure that you let me know, and we will see you in the next video.